What do successful people do when they face their biggest challenges? They go back to basics. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. And that is our objective today, to educate, lead, and inspire. And in terms of going back to basics, first of all, I think we can all agree that we're facing some difficult challenges right now with this coronavirus that's out there. And one of the things that we want to do is go back to basics. Successful people do that. Coaches do that. Leaders, good leaders do that. They go back to the basics. That's what we're going to do today. And I personally did that. I went back to my Bibles that I use for personal development, which are Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret. And that's the one we're going to focus on a little bit today. We're going to get a lot of help from Earl Nightingale. And this video that you can get on YouTube, once again, it's Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. I strongly recommend that you view it for yourself. I don't know, it's about 30 minutes long, but it's unbelievably good. It was made in the 1950s. As you recall, one of the things that I'm always preaching is that principles remain the same, technology changes. Boy, when you watch this video, you're going to say to yourself, technology changes, but principles remain the same. So let's get right into it today. All right, and today being Sunday night, I'm making this video for you a couple days before that, so I'm right there with the news. I'm not having any lag time in the videos because we're facing such a difficult crisis. Now, one of the things that I preach, that Earl Nightingale preaches, is that society is divided up 95% unsuccessful, 5% successful. What did the 5%ers do that the 95%ers fail to do? Well, he actually has a very long and beautiful explanation, but I'm going to chunk it down for you real quickly and tell you what the major difference is that the 5%ers, the achievers, set goals for themselves. It's as simple as that. They set goals for themselves. That's the major difference. He also tells us that we become what we think about every day. We become what we think about every day. I'm repeating these things. These are important basics that we want to grasp. And speaking of basics, I'm going to make my presentation today using the word basics. And the first thing that we want to talk about in terms of basics, okay, what I recommend that you do, and hopefully my editor will put this up on screen, is to have the word basics written vertically, and then have the words that just off to the right so that you can see the things that make up the word basics. These are the things that are going to help you get where you want to be. And the B in basics stands for believe. Now, one of the things that we know from the actual Bible is where there is no vision, the people perish. We are facing some very difficult challenges right now, and the thing that we are envisioning is getting back to normal, getting back to where we want to be, getting back to where we should be so that we can make as much progress as we possibly can. Now, William James said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. We need only in cold blood act as if the thing in question were real, and it will become infallibly real by giving into such a connection in our life that it will become real. It will become so knit with habit and emotion that our interest in it will be those that characterize belief. Only you must really wish these things and wish them exclusively and not wish at the same time 100 other incompatible things just as strongly. So what are we saying here, folks? The things that we've talked about, the basics that we talk about all the time, is to have a singleness of purpose, is to focus your brain on a particular concept, a particular idea, and a particular objective. I didn't make these things up. Napoleon Hill didn't make these things up. Singleness of purpose is what's going to get you there. And when you have that belief, right? Remember he said you'll make it come true. When you have that belief, the things around you start to relate to that particular belief, and you start to connect them, and you start to see things that you didn't see before, and you have aha moments. Not only that, but when you have that strong belief, you're sending that vibe into the universe, and the infinite mind wants to help us. And the infinite mind helps us by giving us puzzle pieces of the solution, by creating circumstances that we could neither predict nor plan that will help us move our situation forward. These are the things that why belief is so important. It's the first, the B in basics, belief. You have got to believe. And that's what separates the people that are the doers from the people that are the ones that just get by. Because when they set their goals and they envision that every day, that repetition creates the reality that they're going to reach their goal. And all the things around them in society and all the things around them start to connect and start to make that happen. So, the first letter of basics that we're talking about today is believe. The A in basics, attitude. There are some things that we can control and some things that we can't control. What's the weather going to be outside today? It's going to rain, it's going to be sunny, it's going to be snowy, it's going to be windy. Who knows what the weather's going to be? We have no control over that. The one thing that we do have control over every day is our attitude. And what you feed into your head greatly determines your attitude. That also means that the habits that you embrace on a daily basis are the things that determine your attitude. If you go to social media every day and look what every Tom, Dick, and Mary are doing and the things that they've done and the problems that they have, and so, what does that do to your attitude? You are reactionary instead of somebody that is determining your own future. Get in tune with having a good, positive attitude. How do you have a good, positive attitude? You give yourself that quiet thinking time. You visualize yourself achieving that goal, that burning desire, that belief that we were just talking about, and seeing it happen. And when you do that, you suppose you become positive, or do you suppose you become negative? You follow what I'm saying? Get your attitude straight. Get your attitude positive. And not only that, but when you do that and you give off the vibe of being positive, the people around you are going to want to spend time with you, and they will start to mirror your attitude. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken to people just off the cuff, people that don't even know that where I've come into contact and said something positive, and you see them brighten up, and then they say something positive. It's as easy as just saying, good morning, and smiling with your eyes so that people know that, like, hey, he's glad to see me. That's an important thing. So saying good morning, these positive things. Now, when you say good morning nowadays, make sure you're 6 feet apart, all right? But still say good morning. These are the things that are important. Have your attitude straight, because if you want to be an achiever, if you want to get your goals done, you have to have that positive attitude. The S in basics stands for start. My goodness, you're developing the habit, you have your quiet thinking time, you see yourself accomplishing that goal, you're cementing that belief in your brain that you can get the job done, but you don't do anything about it. You're a procrastinator. Here's the key point. Get your butt in motion and get started. Get started. You don't have to have the entire game plan all set up. We're going back to basics here. These are the things that people do that screw them up, that make them procrastinators. They sit and they think about why they can't do this and why they can't do that and so on. You don't have to see, if you're in New York and you're driving from New York to San Francisco, you don't have to see the Golden Gate Bridge in your window. It's there. But you have to get your journey started, and you have to put your foot on the gas, and you're going to come to stoplights, you're going to come to detours, you're going to come to all sorts of different obstacles, just like we're going to in trying to overcome this virus. We're going to get started, but we're going to run into obstacles. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go back and we're going to start again. But the key thing is, you got to get started. And once you get started, this is so elementary and so key. Once you get started, you start to develop momentum. Momentum. Momentum is so critical. All right, so you got to believe, you got to have the right attitude, you've got to get started, and the I in basics, your identity. You have to know who you are, and when you know who you are and you see yourself performing the deed, receiving the accolades, or performing that function, when you see yourself achieving that particular goal, you become that identity, that person. The difference between being a substitute teacher and a regular teacher. When I was a substitute teacher, I was a sub. And then the teacher left, I went in to take her place, and then I became the teacher. That was my identity. Boy, did things change when I became the teacher. I'm the same person, they're the same kids, but now I'm the teacher. Or when you go from assistant coach to coach. When you're an assistant coach, all right, what you say is important, but when you're the coach, it's paramount. That's the final word. You follow what I'm saying here? So I'm not saying necessarily fake it till you make it, but put yourself in that position where you see yourself, you feel yourself. When you become that identity, when you become that person that you want to become, and do the things that make you feel that way. And when you feel that way, you give off those vibes. And when you give off those vibes, the universe responds to that. You know, people that are not such big achievers, they like to say fake it till you make it. That's shallow. We're not talking fake it till you make it. What we're talking about is become that person that you want to become. Have that identity. The C in basics, clarity. You have to be crystal clear in your vision. You can't paint it, you can't paint your canvas with broad brush strokes. There have to be fine brush strokes, very specific, what it is you want, the outcome that you want. And don't forget, when you're sending that vibe of the outcome that you want, obviously you've tried things to get from point A to point B to point C, and you haven't got there yet, you're having some challenges. Don't bog down the infinite mind by reviewing the things that you've tried that haven't worked. You already found out they haven't worked. Why is it you're enlisting the aid of the infinite mind to be your partner? Because you want things that will work. You want the fact that the infinite mind doesn't have any set paradigms that it works with. The infinite mind encompasses everything. It's like, instead of going, to the library and looking in one section, you have the whole library. The infinite mind is the whole library, has all of the books, has all of the ideas, has all of the different paradigms, angles, methods of getting something done. But if your vibe that you're sending out, and remember, thoughts are things. When you send those thoughts out into the universe, what happens? You start to limit, just as you limit yourself with the things that you've been trained and programmed to do, just as you limit yourself that way, when you think those in a narrow perspective, you also limit the universe, because you're giving the universe boundaries. Don't give the universe boundaries. What you want to do is see that vision, see that end result, allow the universe to create new boundaries for you by making suggestions, intuitive thoughts, creating circumstances, by giving you different angles to look at things. That's the key thing. So when you have that clarity, when we're talking about clarity, it's clarity of the outcome that you want to achieve. And then finally, the S in basics is, of course, for success. And what is success? And I'm going to quote Earl Nightingale on this. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So that if you're somebody that wants to be a school teacher and you become a school teacher, you're a success. You follow what I'm saying? Success is not measured necessarily by income. Success is if you want to be the mother of the year or the father of the year and you achieve that, then you're a success. It's the realization of a worthy ideal. And a worthy ideal for us right now in these challenging times is to get ourselves back to normal, where we can interact with somebody without the fear of creating health hazards. You know, when you talk about, I want you to stop and think about this for a minute. We're talking about basics. What's the first thing that they're telling everybody to do? Let me give you an example. Let's suppose you go into work and one of your coworkers has had the flu or is coughing a lot, you know, and you see that and they got the tissues out and they're coughing. What is it that you think to yourself? Stay away from me. I don't want to get sick. Did you need a scientist? Did you need to have a medical degree to have somebody tell you, hey, stay away so you don't catch whatever it is that they have? Here's what makes it difficult. Most people live their lives by saying, once I see it, then I'll believe it, which is exactly the opposite of what it should be. It's once I believe it, then I will see it. But getting back to what we're saying is, once I see it, then I believe it. If you see somebody and they don't have the symptoms, then you don't believe that they're sick. You don't believe that they may have the dreaded invisible virus. Wake up. Wake up. All right? We're all in this together. Use your common sense. If somebody, once again, you see them with the Kleenex, you see them coughing, you see them sneezing, you know, what do you say to yourself? I'm staying away from them. In these particular times, that's such a basic thing. And like I said, you don't need to be an MD in order to come to that conclusion. Does that make sense to everybody? So let's get back to basics. Let's believe. Let's have the right attitude. Let's get started. Let's have our identity. Let's use our identity to move us forward. Let's feel that person that we want to become. Let's do so with clarity. Let's see that outcome clearly in our minds so that things around us will start to connect with that outcome. That's where the clarity is so key. And once again, let's get that worthy, let's have the realization of that worthy ideal, which is for us to get back to the human experience. And because we will never end our meeting on a philosophical note, basically, let's all get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.